Huh? Well, you recording me now, huh?
Yeah,
Oh, is this a dry run, is it?
we might use this dry footage.
Okay, okay. I dig it. I figured I would schedule the actual discussion on a Monday so I wouldn't be so beaten down from the week. On a Monday or late on Friday, because I've noticed trying to write Yammer posts late on Friday, I can entertain myself at least.
I haven't done a
What you
Yerma
got going on
post.
there? You have a, is your laptop sitting on one of those practice walker things?
It's sitting
It
on my
just
lap.
moves. Oh, has
um,
anybody ever told you your lap moves like a practice walker?
n- Only in Zurich when people said that actually.
Hmm.
Um, but no, I was up early with some of this guy. Say hey,
Oh, this guy.
say hey, say hey.
World's best world's best alarm clock. Point the camera down. I can barely see that cutie.
Yeah.
There we go. There he is
Say morning.
with the boppy and everything.
Yeah, he's just chilling
And is that glove? Does he scratch his face with his fingernails?
all the freaking time, man.
Yeah, man. People, I mean, kids will cut themselves up with those crazy sharp. They like little Wolverine babies.
Yeah, he'll like knock off the mitt during the night, and then he'll have like this big scar on the side of his face.
Yeah. Wake up looking like Sabretooth or something.
Yeah, like Seal. It's really bad. And then
Mm.
I feel like people are always judging me, like, "Oh, what are you doing to your kid?"
hmm Yeah, before we visited, it was like before first trip to meet the grandparents. Some milestone in your young family's life. We're gonna visit some people, and like 3 days before we go, my son, who never falls, decides to like walk and fall straight into the corner of a coffee table and gets the most blazing black eye you have ever seen. Just like somebody, wham! Of course, he carries that the entire trip to see his grandparents and stuff for the first time. Big black eye. Well, that's how it goes.
Man, hold on a second. Here you go, Joe. All right. So you were getting out of business a little bit. You were telling me about your rotation.
Was I? Okay, yeah. Should we do that or should we brainstorm the overall idea?
I mean, I don't. I just really want to know what you're doing.
Oh, okay. So there's this company there's this company called ABB, which is I had never heard of it before this rotation, but it's a very large company. Apparently, something like 60 to 70% of power grid infrastructure
Hmm.
in the world is made by this company.
Really?
They also make the robots that build cars and assembly lines and stuff like that. So they're known as a robotics slash automation company. Absolutely massive, operating in over 100 countries, blah, blah, blah. Um, and they happen to be headquartered out of Switzerland. So my rotation is delivery with no, it's fine. I can pause if you want.
No, I make a multitask,
Okay, okay.
like all the great dads of history.
No, I'm actually horrible at multitasking. For like the first 3 or 4 years, I realized that was like a trigger for me. I was like, don't come home and expect to like be taking care of your kid or whatever and have anything else important to do. Just don't do it. You set yourself up for failure.
You know what? Sometimes you say things, and I'm like, you must have been in my thoughts at some point, because that's exactly how I thought. And I had to make an intention, like intentionally being a dad, if that makes sense.
hmm
Like for the first like maybe 5 or 6 weeks, it was always like kid has a need, I feel need, job done, and I would just like kind of go through that rotation of like, okay, I did what you need me to do, like I'm here for you. Now that you're done, I can go do my other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. You treat it like any other thing you can multitask,
Yeah,
and that is the trap. And
yeah, that's a
you'll have
trap.
to learn the hard way, I'm sure, no matter what. But
Yeah, but now I have to mentally set aside time to just hang out with him.
yes, yes.
It's so different. It's like those
Yeah.
billboards when they're like, take time to be a dad today. Like I get that now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I try to enjoy my moments with him, even if that's like changing his diaper or feeding him, and not just thinking
Uh-huh.
of it as like okay,
This task, yeah.
I need to shower, get dressed, change the kid, and get out the door. And it shouldn't be that
Yeah,
way.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So.
anyway, this company's massive. I'm doing my delivery with them because they're based out of Zurich, and the Wipro delivery management team is in Zurich. So I'm here with them. It's in a shared building. It's a client building,
Hmm.
actually. Um,
Stupid question. What exactly is delivery?
Delivery. Okay, maybe not a stupid question, but I mean, in the simplest form, delivery is literally delivering what it is we won or sold in a contract. So in this case,
Hmm. You good?
in okay, in this case, ABB was like a traditional conglomerate
Hmm.
where over 100,000 users
Hmm.
and multiple CIOs. Um, like every geography kind of had their own little fiefdom that they were running,
Yeah.
their own budget, their own CIO, which I never knew was a thing. And then they decided, hey, this is really expensive and inefficient. Let's standardize and like reduce costs, blah blah blah, and focus on our core competence. So they gave Wipro an enormous contract to do everything from like laptop purchasing and lifecycle management to antivirus to service desk, call center, blah blah blah, everything IT,
Yeah.
and to turn that like smattering of the seven kingdoms into one centralized standardized service. Um, yeah,
Cool.
and that's what we do.
So,
So it's delivering that.
right. But what's your role in that though?
Yeah. So my role specifically, the first couple of weeks were spent floating around finding a father or a mother, finding my parents, as it were. And
Yeah.
I was, yeah, the account delivery head found me after a couple of days, said, hey, I saw the first Global 100 who came through here, and who was actually Julian, who also went to my alma mater, which was interesting, small world.
Yeah.
Um, he says, and I don't think we did a great job with him, so if you're going to be here, I'll just take ownership of your rotation. Let's do that. It's like, oh, that's nice of you.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, so he immediately booked a couple of visits to different sites. So one of the things we provide on this contract is just massive, but one of the things that we provide is on-site support. So at every like semi-established or significant office worldwide, we have some Wipro people who will like fix your laptop, issue you a new laptop, blah 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 blah.
Hmm.
So I went to visit one of those in Switzerland. He just was kind of basically facilitating a little tourism, a little business tourism around just the ABB delivery empire. And so I got into that for a little while. And after a few weeks, I mean, and I would sit in on meetings too. So from like the very first week, I was sitting in on meetings with some of the senior client people and quickly realized that there was some trouble in paradise. They weren't very happy, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
Fast forward a couple of weeks, and um, I sat in on a workshop, and this workshop was basically meant to say, like, okay, guys, every time we try to have a conversation about fixing problems, you say that it's the wrong problem or the wrong fix or blah, blah, like, it's not going anywhere. You don't trust us. It's very conflict laden. So we had a workshop, and we said, okay, we're starting from scratch. You key people from ABB side who actually aren't ABB employees, and you key people from Wipro side. Go sit down, do a week-long workshop, and let's figure this out so that we can be on the same page and
Hmm.
move forward. Uh, it actually has pretty high visibility, so at that point, it was like, I bet, and everybody on Wipro side is willing to just like to do what it needs to
Hmm.
do what needs to be done to fix this, but we got to get on the same page. So I sat in on that workshop, and after about a week, it was done, and they said, "Hey, we could use a PMO to help manage and preserve this alignment that we just worked to build as we go through this like new 9-step process that involves everybody and their mother. Like, we need a PMO. It's going to take us a while to get one internally. So if you can step into that role,
Hmm.
that'd be great."
That's
So
awesome.
so I stepped into that role, and that's what I've been doing ever since. And then there was a side project. Well, it's not a side project; it's a monster. But another aspect of the contract is to manage going from all these different on-premise server-based storage things with like shared folders and convoluted access and stuff to the modern like OneDrive, Office 365, individual stuff on the cloud, some things on premise, and SharePoint mainly is like the only shared file storage option. But going from here to there is difficult, and it just kept getting pushed to the right, pushed to the right, pushed to the right. So they said, hey, can you also be a project manager for that, just to figure out the scope, just to get it off the ground because it's been delayed a number of times, and then we'll hand it over when you leave. So those are the two main things.
Got it. So that's a lot better than what I thought it was going to be. I mean, I just always thought about like, if delivery is really delivering the tech and we don't know tech, then what the hell are we doing? But I guess we're just kind of project managers.
Dude, you would not believe, man. Like, I mean, I kind of thought too, yeah, like I don't know tech, so I'll learn enough about tech. The tech is the least, I would say, is the least of the problems. It's like sticking to a process, stakeholder management, building trust, like all of that stuff.
It's pretty much execution. And it doesn't matter if you're like building a factory or delivering IT support or making cookies. Like,
yeah,
you got the chefs who know what they're doing, and then you're just managing them to make sure they have all the materials they need.
Right. Yeah. There's on more than one occasion I've just had to stand back. Like, for something like there is nothing I've seen that is actually that complicated, even on the technical side. There's nothing I've seen. It is incredible, given that fact, how complicated and how messy this stuff is. It's mind blowing.
Yeah. So how much longer are you there? Until Bangalore?
Yeah, till LPS.
Gotcha. And family settling in okay?
Yeah, so I mean, we had a small little misfortune. When I looked at the immigration stuff to come to Switzerland, State Department website, you can go to Switzerland for business or for tourism for up to 90 days out of any 180-day period with no visa. Perfect. I'll schedule my trip for 90 days. Done. I get here and I learn about this thing called the Schengen Agreement, which is a shicey little agreement that says that rule actually like applies to most of the EU as if it were one country. So what that means is that the 2 weeks that I spent in Germany during my pre-sales rotation, that counts against me.
Oh, man.
So now, and Switzerland don't play when it comes to immigration. So, so now I'm like, well, shit. Like, I'm gonna run out of days. I'm gonna be like probably over 2 weeks short. I got to figure something out. So we had a couple of options. One was to go to London because we have some delivery stuff in London. But it's really, the account delivery head is a really nice guy. He's like, go to London. Your family will thank you. But I also heard that Romania was an option. I was like, well, Romania sounds cool. And every time I'd say that, they'd like turn up their nose, like, it's Romania, dude. Like, you don't want to go to Romania. Yeah. But they also had this one of our biggest service desk is in Romania. So like in terms of delivery and how we're getting things done, a big piece of that is sitting in Romania. So I was like, well, if it's all the same to you, Romania is cheaper, so that's nice. And there's more relevant to the project. So I'm gonna be a little visa refugee for about 2 weeks, and I'll work remotely from Romania. So I went there. And it was incredible. They were, for one, Romania sweet. Saw Dracula's castle, some stuff like that. That's pretty awesome. It's cheap. Cheap goes a long way with me. Really like cheap.
I've noticed. Because you got 4 mouths to feed.
Yeah. I'm happiest when things are cheap. Anyway. And the people at the office were they were awesome. They were like, what you would imagine. What kind of leader would you imagine you need to run a service desk? So the service desk, under one roof, 30 plus languages. 30 plus different languages under one roof in frickin' Budapest, Romania. I mean, you don't have enough fingers to count the challenges with actually making that work with any degree of quality. But they did they were awesome. They welcomed me. They gave me a parking spot. They gave me a place to sit. They hooked it up with the internet. All kinds of stuff. It was great.
Wait, I got
And
some
I
more
was
questions.
able to keep. Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
So, how are you able to drive there? Like, with your American driver's license, or do you need some kind of special
So
thing?
in Zurich, I don't drive. It's, I'm sure you've heard like the rumors about like Swiss public transit being very good. It's
Yeah,
not as good as they say, but it's good. So I didn't rent a car.
yeah,
I pay $100 per month for this like unlimited pass around the city of Zurich.
gotcha. Is that just for you, or you got to get one for the wife too?
I gotta get one for the wife, so that one's out of my pocket.
Okay. Um, Second question: how would the UK not count against your time? Because they're still technically part of the EU,
Brexit.
but that's not happened yet.
I don't know. So maybe it wasn't Brexit, but for whatever. So I said most of the EU, right?
Yeah,
So Romania is in the EU, but they didn't sign the Schengen agreement for whatever reason. So
gotcha.
it
How do
was
you
really
spell that?
Shengen.
Shengen.
Yeah.
Okay. Are you hearing an echo on your side?
No, it just warned me that there might be an echo.
Yeah, it warned me too. I don't hear an echo.
No, I don't know.
Because I got you on laptop speakers, obviously, and
Word.
I'm doing this also as a sound test, so that if we have some kind
Uh-huh.
of weird sound thing, we know before next time.
Dude, I like your style. So entrepreneurial. Like I'm all thinking, yeah, we'll have a little scoping discussion. Here, I'm feeling agile, but then you come in and you're up in the agility.
I mean, why not launch an MVP right now?
Right, exactly. That's what you're doing. You're like, screw a scoping meeting. Let's just practice.
Yeah.
Great.
So I'm scheduled to be in the UK for delivery, my next rotation.
Uh-huh.
I have no idea like who I'm working with or what I'm doing. Like I'm gonna try to figure that out pretty soon.
You're doing
Um,
the digital thing in UK?
I don't know. They just said delivery,
Mm.
but I think we have to like check off the boxes, right? Like, we have to do delivery, pre-sale, and sales.
Yeah.
And I'm really trying to get out of doing pre-sales, but I don't think delivery. I think delivery like has to be done. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
No, I was under the same impression as you.
yeah,
That delivery sales and pre-sales are the big ones that you got to do.
right. So
Have
if
you
got
done sales yet? When are we
Yeah.
going to talk about yours?
yeah, I did sales in Jersey. But wait, if you got any contacts in the UK that I might want to talk to as far as getting my delivery rotation set up, I'd love to have those.
I don't,
Okay.
unless you want to do ABB, and I think that would be a long shot. And unless you wanted to come to Switzerland. So for UK, I think it's like Clayton and Miss
Clayton and Caitlin is there.
Caitlin. Yeah, Clayton
Yeah.
and Caitlin. I think
Okay.
they'd be the best because I know Caitlin at last LPS. I mean, she was doing her British visa and all that.
Yeah. So I don't know what they're doing there, but I'll reach out to them.
Digital. Clayton is doing digital. I'm pretty sure.
Can you do
I
digital delivery? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
Okay. 'Cause I'm thinking that like, so I'm currently in E&U doing an oil and gas rotation, which I think is like my elective, and I think that
Okay.
means that I don't have room to do digital, um,
Mm.
or really anything else. Like I'm loving E&U right now, and I'm really glad I'm down here. I'm like my main goal for the rest of this rotations. Like I did sales, did HR, now I'm doing E&U. My main goal is to try not to do pre-sales. Because it seems like pre-sale can only be done in India, and
Which
I don't
would
want
be
to take my
hard.
kid to India
Right.
because he's just too
Right.
young,
Yeah.
and so
Oh, I could possibly help you there, possibly.
okay,
So there's this guy I talked to out of Detroit, automotive guy.
ooh,
Yeah, and I was discussing a rotation with him, and he seemed to be pushing me towards an eventual pre-sales role because he wants to get pre-sales set up in the U.S. He wants to have one FTE for pre-sales in the U.S. He may be a little bit hard of a sell because I think he was a little hesitant to put me in a client-facing role, and he really warmed up when he heard that I had already worked with the pre-sales people in India for automotive. But assuming those hurdles could be overcome, I don't know, just an option.
yeah, no, everything about that you told me excites me. It being in the U.S., I don't care for Detroit, but whatever.
Yeah,
And it being
yeah.
a hard sell, like that just makes it even more lucrative if I can pull it off.
yeah, yeah. So
So
what he
yeah.
proposed for my actual rotation was to do like a sales enablement thing. So another option would be if he could get you the same offer, um, then maybe you could call sales enablement pre-sales in some way.
Okay.
Yeah. But he talked about this sales enablement thing where you would work with the domain team and train salespeople based off of like the trends and the collateral that the domain team builds. Um, and using that as kind of a ramp up to a full-time position for
Okay.
pre-sales.
Because so when you say pre-sales, it's mainly like putting together the decks and getting everything ready so that you can bid on the stuff, right? Like RFPs and stuff.
Yes. Hmm.
Okay.
It's not
Uh,
just decks though. A lot of times it's like a full form written response. It's
yeah.
a little bit insane.
Okay. The more I know about this, the more I can kind of find a meaningful substitute. Because I don't think anybody did pre-sales outside of Bangalore.
Hmm. I mean, mine was in Hyderabad, but yeah,
I mean, sorry, outside of India.
India. Hmm.
Yeah. So I was talking to the head of downstream for ENU, this guy Derek Prothel. That's really cool. And he's just like, yeah, pre-sales is gonna be super boring. Like, you don't want to go there. You don't want to do that. You don't want to take your kid there. Um, so let me fully circle back. So I'm doing ENU in Houston. Houston's awesome. Um, wife has tons of family down here, like her dad, a couple sisters, some cousins, uncle and aunt. So they've all been like kind of chipping in and taking care of Joe for a little bit. But here I'm working mainly on this terminal automation project. So when the gas, like oil and gas distributors, like need to put all their fuel or liquefied natural gas or whatever it is into this like gas terminal to let the truck come pick it up or the barges come pick it up, like that whole process of the driver coming in, getting badged in, getting verified for what he needs to pick up, make sure he pick up the right thing, and make sure he's scheduled right so that um, there's not too much congestion at one time. You don't want to have a line of trucks at your terminal waiting to pick up. That whole process of making it very digitized and automated is called terminal automation. And so Wipro and some other vendors like pretty much saturated the market where all the terminals now, besides like some really rinky-dink third-party terminals, are automated. The problem now is even though we've done that and we've like worked with a strong vendor to get this done, mainly in the Shell and Exxon account, we want to take it a step further and leverage their data in some meaningful way. So we want to do some kind of demand forecasting or be able to do some kind of analytics with their data. We want to provide any service we can around this space so that now that we've actually sold them on the automation piece, we can take care of their invoicing or billing because that process can be automatic if you have all the data live, or we can make sure they're in regulatory compliance. So my
Yeah.
job is putting together a deck of all the resources that we currently have in the automation space and
Uh-huh.
really coming up with solutions that we could hopefully sell to Exxon and Shell. Um, and so I'm working with a guy who's pretty much the head of terminal automation at Wipro, and like a lot of his like counterparts and team have been super helpful, and just really cool people to work with. Everybody I work with in Houston almost exclusively is American, and it's so nice. Everybody I talked to made a point to tell me how awesome the team is. Like I would just go down the list, like, oh, I talked to Nadine. Oh, Nadine's awesome. Oh, and Cornell.
Uh-huh.
Oh, he's awesome too. They would just keep saying this over and over, and now I feel like one
Yeah.
of those people. Um, and so I've been working with them.
That's what I say when somebody said Jonathan, I'm like, oh, he's awesome.
I say the same thing about Mo.
Yeah,
Um,
naturally.
you meet that threshold.
That's awesome.
So for a little bit though, for maybe about 2.5 weeks, I worked on this Anchorage project. So the head of ENU in Houston wanted to know if there was any opportunities in the Anchorage, Alaska market that we're not exploring. So we currently,
You're heading up to Alaska?
hopefully not.
Look it up. No, you
So
just send that one my way.
yeah. so we do a lot of work with BP Alaska and even more work with this Alyeska pipeline, the pipeline that
Uh-huh.
runs from like the north to the south of Alaska. So the drilling happens in the north, going to the pipeline through the south. The pipeline was built like in the 70s,
You better
And
not say anything about Dakota Access. I'll have to quit.
we do work with Sunoco, who's a parent company for Dakota Access. I know. But this Alaska pipeline though, I imagine there was some similar kind of protests in the '70s when they built it, but now it's like the primary driver of the Alaskan economic market. Like anybody in Alaska is pretty much either in fishing or in oil and gas, and oil and gas is way more profitable.
Do you know about that citizen being an Alaskan citizen? They get money every year, or at least they used to. This guy I was in the military with, he's like, oh yeah, I was talking about tax return. He's like, yeah, I get my tax return plus my like, I don't know, it was like $2,000 or something like per year is your like citizen share of oil revenue from the state.
Yeah, it's crazy up there. It's like part of what they worked out when they became a U.S. state. I looked at that for a little bit. Part of the deal that the U.S. worked out with Alaska is that we'll take you in, even though it makes no sense on our footprint. But here's the rules, and it's also like gets into how their government work because all the governments are all like of the local people. It gets split up in like 13 different like colonies instead of counties. Um, and so they're like these Alaska corporations. It's very like Canadian in that sense. Anyway, so with oil prices down, there've been a lot of layoffs, but like the oil and gas is like such a big economic driver for Alaska that everybody loves it. The problem is though, even though so my job was to figure out should we be investing more BD efforts in Anchorage, or is that market kind of done? Um, and even though production is down for drilling and with the pipeline, there's a lot of untapped clients. There's an airport there that's heavy cargo, pretty much the gateway from East Asia to the U.S. comes through Anchorage, Alaska Airport. Like this, all the FedEx, all the stuff that's made in China gets pushed
What
through
does
the
that mean for
airport.
ENU?
Yeah. So that's part of ENU because it's part of the engineering and construction vertical.
Oh,
Uh,
okay.
there's an actual port that 95% of the goods from Alaska comes through this one port in Anchorage. Um, Size wise, though, it's like 1% the size of like the JFK port, but it's pretty sizable to them. And there's other like Chevron and ConocoPhillips that are up there. So basically, my findings were the opportunities that we're not chasing because people are pretty much averse to going to Alaska. Like all the guys I talked to were kind of just like, yeah, there's nothing up there. Like there's no opportunities. We don't go there because it's not worth it. And then I went to the head of oil and gas, or the head of ENU, and I'm like, this is what I got. And he's like, nah, look, I'm telling you the truth. Like really drill them on what's happening up there. And then once I finally pushed, they were like, well, there's some opportunities, but we don't want to chase them because it's cold and nobody wants to go there. So essentially, we need a
You've got to
business.
be kidding me. Wait.
Seriously,
See, and that's where it just gets serious, right? Because
yeah.
that could be like I bet that, in some circles that would be a legitimate driver. Like we won't be able to staff it, for example, right?
That's a problem too. So it's so much friction where nobody wants to go to Anchorage, like relocate there. And people in Anchorage are very like familial. It's like a small town kind of feel. Everybody knows each other,
Uh-huh.
and nobody wants
Yeah.
to leave. And so we literally like can't find business development guys or business analysts to work there. Um,
Right.
and the
So
guys,
I'm sorry. This is probably going to go a small tangent, but I think it's relevant if we're like thinking big picture. In my HR project, I interviewed a lot of people. I got a lot of insight into on-site employees, at least for MFT.
Mhm.
And one of the things I realized is that even on-site, like that, the reason why localization is such a big push is because even in areas where we have a large on-site footprint, it still remains very Indian, right? It's like
Mhm.
it's very bring the labor from India to here, and
Right,
it's hence localization, right? And
right.
hence probably some of the bigger changes we've seen at a policy level with like sponsoring green cards and things like that. Anyway, to me it's clear that there's probably some bleed over there, right? Like, are there business development guys in Anchorage that we're just not looking at, or we haven't built relationships with, or are local hires in the U.S. less averse to going to Alaska? Because I don't think like if you take a 90% Indian sample and then a 90% like local U.S. sample, from each sample, what would the percentages look like of willingness to relocate to Alaska?
Hmm.
You know,
And
it's
then I
still it
hadn't
might be
considered.
low on both, but I would go to Alaska, so I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Well, you also get excited about Romania, so
Yeah, yeah, I got it. It would be low on both, but anyway, I'm just thinking
yeah.
like,
There's literally one guy who lives in Arizona for half the year and then lives in Anchorage for half the year. He has a
uh-huh,
family, so he goes up there in the summers, when it's also warmer, and
uh-huh.
he like flies back and forth every other week, and he hates it. He's the only guy who's willing to go, and he only goes half the year. And he's the main guy that's like, so you're trying to figure out if I spend more time there?
Uh-huh. Right. But there's got
um,
to be a solution to that. Not everybody hates Alaska.
Not everybody.
Anyway,
Yeah,
go
it's
ahead.
part of the solution is trying to hire more like local. Also, some of the local projects, the Alaskan government says you need to have 20% Alaska natives,
Yeah,
which is hard to find up there. So that's
yeah.
the gist of it. But it's also like an incentive problem. Like the guy who works the Exxon account, like deals with Exxon nationally in the U.S. And so he's not thinking about Anchorage. He doesn't care
Hmm.
actually because he has bigger fish to fry. Same is true for the BP guy. Like he doesn't really care
Yeah.
too much about this like one little market for BP.
Uh-huh.
So it's so bad that we took over some work from a competitor where we subcontracted to the competitor to have them do the work as we kind of ramped them down and ramped us up. But nobody took the initiative to like flip that switch to get our guys to do it. So they're still doing the work, like out of contract. We probably just asleep at the wheel.
Oh man.
Yeah. So that
I
that,
mean, are we
that
talking big money here, or is that part of it too? Like the size of the pie in Alaska is just not that big.
and that's something that I don't know how to really quantify. Like
Yeah.
looking at all these opportunities, like the airport, for example. I talked to the head of airports, and he's just like, "Yeah, I'm focused on like um, San Antonio, Denver, Miami, Midway as like the airports I want to get into, and Anchorage Airport is like not even on my list of like not even third tier of what I'm looking at." And I can't argue with that.
Uh-huh.
Like he has his priority list, so. Are there opportunities? Yes. Can I convince anybody to put them at the top of their list? Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's figuring out like how lucrative that is. But who knows? Like who knows how lucrative a Chevron contract is in Anchorage once you staff it up and figuring out what that thing is. And that might be the next
Hmm.
step. That's probably what
Hmm.
what my boss is going to do with the deck is really put numbers to it to say this is the size of this opportunity based on the size of the company and what's happening there, all that kind of stuff.
Hmm. I
Um,
mean, it seems like it could be. I mean, seems like there could be a potential there, right? Especially if our favorite approach of benchmarking suggests that none of the other vendors are looking there as well. Not TCS, not
we do have
those
competition
guys.
there. HP is there,
Huh?
IBM,
Uh-huh.
and there's this like really small company called TGS with that subcontracting one, and they're kind of just cleaning up.
Mm.
And
So
so,
somebody is already, yeah, okay.
yeah, originally I had in my deck to have a partnership with them, and my boss is like, we should be crushing them. They shouldn't even be existing in that market.
Yeah.
So change your deck to say we're gonna put them out of business once we go in there. And I'm like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's it right now. I mean, I finished
That's
the
cool.
Anchorage thing. Now I'm back on automation.
Uh-huh. How did the on-campus recruiting and some of the HR stuff go? That's what you were on last time we saw each other.
Yeah, that went great.
Yeah.
So they helped launch that program. We did a lot of R&D, like with the universities, like getting our foot in the door. Hey, with Wipro, what's we're hiring for? I think we onboarded 40 people at the end of January, which was
Nice.
a lot for like such a short runway to get that done.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I still like work with them a little bit. So they just had a recruiting event last Friday at the University of Houston, and I represented the program and got about 60 resumes. I think about 35 of them were quality
Where?
in University of Houston.
Okay.
Um,
Very cool.
yeah, and now this is all part of the localization. Like it's these tech centers in Dallas that they just started. That cohort just started in January. But also in New Jersey, Atlanta, and Mountain View.
Yeah.
Pretty much gonna have the same model. Bring in these like tech grads that are not the cream of the crop, but they're more so like decent level.
Yeah.
We have a lot of conversations about that. Like we're not looking for your 4.0 leads the tech club kind of guy because he's going to Apple.
Yeah.
Like we're looking for the student who like works hard, who maybe has an interesting background, but can code and wants to have an opportunity to get trained up for 6 months and get deployed out.
Yeah.
And it's like we talk a lot about how to communicate that message, and I fully get it. Like we're looking for like this B student. We only have a 2.5 GPA cutoff, even though most of our students are like 3.0. So yeah, I met a lot of like really eager candidates in Houston who would be like excited for the opportunity. So yeah, that went really well. I did a little bit of analytics stuff with that group, with HR, not too much. Like they were trying to use analytics to better predict recruiting and recruiting actions, which I think is super needed. Like using data to say, you know what, Mo's a good candidate. He's gonna make it through all this stuff fine. Let's fast track him through the process and get this rec field. Or, you know, we're really trying to fill this opportunity, say in Anchorage, Alaska, and we know previously when we had to do things in this market, LinkedIn works much better than Glassdoor, or personal networks work better than employee referrals. So let's first collect that data on what's effective in each market for each job function at each band level, and then use that to make our decisions of where we invest our dollars. Like that is such a great data analytics application opportunity that we're just not taking advantage of currently.
Yeah.
So for that project, I was way more just sitting in the room and not doing anything meaningful.
Yeah. So I just got my my ping for the next meeting, but
is it at in 15 minutes or 15 minutes ago?
In 15 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, in 15 minutes. Yeah.
Got it.
So sorry, on that topic, really quick, I'm trying to figure out my next rotation for the U.S. and I was kind of hoping it could be sales, but one of the ideas that got brought up was working with the localization. Amar. Have you worked with Amar?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Any advice, recommendations worth doing?
Talk to Cannon Ramia. You met Cannon.
Yeah, I met Cannon.
Amar's Cannon's boss.
Okay.
So talk to Cannon. He knows you, and he'll really drive this stuff. And let Cannon sell it to Amar. And that's really it. Like, what were you trying to do with them? Because you're done with HR.
I'm done with HR. So, Tana suggested that I come back to the States for a little while, just for like the next rotation.
You looking for just ideas from there, like from that starting point?
Yeah, from the U.S. starting point. U.S. is a starting point, and so I had the option in Detroit, but I'm not really digging it because.
Yeah. I mean.
And then
If you wanted to do sales, I could hook you up with the guys that I did sales with. I don't like them and they don't like me, but
so I probably won't go there.
But you can. I mean, I don't like them because they're like very yelly Indian men who like want you to do a lot of things just because the boss said so.
Right. I don't deal. I've dealt with enough of that here, and I don't respond well to it.
Okay. And I also like didn't do work for them at all. Like I think 3 days out of the week, I would like not even open my laptop.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like very laissez-faire. Like people kind of lost track of what I was supposed to do. At some point, the guy was like, "Jonathan, you're really good at not doing work," and I'm like, "Fair criticism." But yeah, then I just really wasn't interested in doing work. But these oil and gas guys,
everything about that sounds horrible.
Yeah, everything about it was horrible. And Jersey is just a horrible place to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, more
I
so
mean, I
though.
honestly, so I had a similar kind of hesitation when you said Canon, because
Yeah,
it seems like I don't know. Wait,
he's a really good guy to work with. Like,
is he?
yeah, him, um, the girl who does a lot of the so Canada's over HR for like North America, I think, and then under
Hmm.
him is Taylor that I worked with day to day, and Taylor runs all the localization. So she's the one that's like contacting universities and like putting out our strategies. Now that she's doing it in the Northeast, she sent me a list of schools to go through to figure out where we're going to target to get people in the Jersey office.
Hmm.
Um, and she hired a girl, Amanda, who was in campus recruiting for like 10 years. And the two of them are just great together.
Mm.
Um, so they're more boots on the ground though, and Canon is way more like signs off on things strategically.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I met up with Canon every like twice a week, and he was a cool guy to like talk to, very knowledgeable. He wasn't yelly at all. I guess maybe because he's in HR. Um, but he had me doing things that were like contributing to the project and not just doing them as exercises.
Yeah. I
So
guess
I
the only data point that stuck out in my head was a lot of don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
I
there was
mean,
there was a lot of that.
yeah,
Um,
when I think about localization, I mean, as long as people are willing to allow you to contribute, like, then that's cool. But
yeah, but that project is almost exclusively HR though.
is it?
It's yeah, I mean it's the business line saying, hey, we should probably get more local talent, but more
Okay.
so it's HR saying, hey, process manufacturing, you need more local people. You should let us help you with that.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. If you're really just trying to be in the U.S. though, here in oil and gas, I think is a cool place to be. If you like Houston, like we do, um, the guy Derek that I work for almost has a chip on his shoulder because he's like really into getting more G100s down here. So Shell was down here,
Hmm.
um, and she loved it. She recommended it to me, and like my boss's boss talked about how awesome Shell was. Like I said, it's all Americans. Um, actually, one of the guys who's
So could
in,
I do sales there?
I think I don't know how they would label it. You could probably do a project that they would consider sales.
Uh-huh.
Um,
They let me talk to clients, you think?
I didn't talk to clients when I was in sales, and I was there for like 4 months.
Uh-huh.
My biggest criticisms from that rotation. Um, I
Oh
can
wait, you did sales in ENU, you said?
no, I did sales in Jersey, but didn't talk
Right,
to a
right.
single
So I'm
client.
saying your guys, would they let me talk to a client? Give me a legit sales experience?
I don't know because my guys are all consulting.
Your team is all consulting?
Yeah,
Anyway, okay. Sorry. This is
yeah.
more
I
become
know of
more
sales
about my
guys here, but they're
rotation.
mainly Indian, and they work on individual accounts. I'm trying to think of who. I don't know. I'll put it that way. I don't know.
Mhm.
What I do
Mhm.
know is this guy Cornell that I work for um, has this retail analytics project, retail digital transformation,
Yeah.
and he's big on getting more G100s down here. So much so that he sent me a deck that I just sent you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because so Pierre and Gaspar were down here for a couple days, and I had them like meeting everybody while we were in the office, and they met with like my manager and a couple of my other managers, and I'm telling Pierre and Gaspar how cool it is down here, and I'm telling you how I'm selling it internally, and they're like, yeah, tell your buddies, come down here. Oil and gas is where it's at. There's a lot of like team pride with the
Yeah.
you folks.
That's cool.
Yeah, and they're really open to having G100s here. Also because I'm crushing it, which hopefully like opens the door for more. But I'm standing on Shale's shoulders because she crushed it the first time,
Yeah.
and so on.
Yeah.
Um,
Consistent crushing. All
yeah,
right.
wouldn't it make most sense for you to do sales out of Mountain View?
That's the location that I'm targeting right now, but finding the sales opportunity is kind of the thing.
Hmm.
I think I can go to Mountain View. Mountain View is actually top of my list right now
Yeah.
because Rebecca, Rebecca's kind of trying to put together her own G100 rotation. So between that, yeah, maybe taking a piece of the localization project focused on the Mountain View side, and then just general opportunities that I am pretty confident are there.
Yeah. Oh, when I talked to Taylor, my previous boss in localization, she said Apple, like the Apple account, is trying to do their own little localization program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it
And
sounds,
that's my HR. I spent some time with the Apple account.
yeah, I know. And I know you had trouble with that one girl there. Uh,
Did I tell you about
yeah,
that?
you did. But
Yeah.
so this Ascent program that I worked with is doing localization in those 4 hubs that I talked about.
Hmm.
Um, but within that Mountain View hub, Apple is trying to like do their own thing specifically for getting more Orange Shore people in Apple.
Yeah. And I would be good for that,
But that's not,
but it's not sales.
yeah. We keep saying localization, and that's not sales.
Yeah, well, I mean, because Tanaz last time I talked is like those were the two recommendations. Like, yeah, you should probably just kind of resettle in the U.S. and then maybe you go back out overseas in fall. I was like, that's fine.
Yeah.
And then
I
she's like, and
wish.
also I think you should maybe take some bubble projects or try and do 2 rotations in one or whatever. To which my first reaction was like, pretty aggressively, like, no. Like, if you ask me, that's like one of a handful of core problems in Wipro is that you load people down so much that quality sucks and ownership sucks. And she's like, whoa, okay, calm down. Like, just a suggestion. But in the context of Mountain View, I was like, okay. In Mountain View, I could see that because that's kind of because it's not like the delivery center of a huge mega gamma account, right? Where
Yeah.
like, okay, that's what you're gonna do. Mountain Views seems a little more mixed bag.
Yeah. I would say if you can get in with the account manager, because they're going to report to the head of sales. Like
Yeah,
find an account manager that who will warm up to you a little bit, pick his brain,
yeah.
and then let him recommend you to his boss.
I kind of want to do hunting though because like I don't know. Maybe I'll feel differently after a couple weeks, but I have the taste in my mouth of what we can actually follow through on, and I feel like it would kind of hinder me as like getting a full sales experience.
Yeah, I know a guy who's a post MBA who does hunting out of um, the like Georgia region, but he'd know more hunting and within manufacturing high tech as well.
Really?
Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
pretty
Hook
cool
it
guy.
up.
He's he's really humble in the sense that he went to like southeastern Georgia State or something like that. So
Hmm.
so when he called me, he was like, "Well, we're not fancy like Kellogg guys or whatever." And I'm like, "Okay, like I get you didn't go to any business school I've heard of, but give yourself a little more credit." But like,
Yeah.
so his post MBA, they don't travel. He's kind of like left on his own to do hunting. Um, and I think for him it's like a great opportunity. But the guy named Tony be a good person to talk to, just about
Yeah.
how hunting works in
Would you
manufacturing high
mind
tech.
sending the email intro?
I will definitely do that. So we got about 5 minutes.
Yep, 5 minutes.
Um,
Okay. This video. So anyway, I was dreading it. You know, I was dreading the video. Last time I
yeah,
spent like a full day doing the damn video, probably longer than a day. And so then I thought, I was like, well, a podcast. Well, me and Jonathan have a nice rapport. We can get into a riff,
yeah.
right?
Hey Mo,
And so,
we got 4 minutes. You don't have to sell me on it. Let's just do it.
right. Okay.
So
So
how do you
what are
want
we
to do
gonna
this?
do? Well, that was supposed to be this meeting, and then you click record and wanted to hear about my rotation, and we talked about it the whole time.
Fair. I think it might. So the way I was envisioning, I don't know what you had in your mind. It would kind of work like this, where like we
Yes.
both have our decks together, and then I'd be like, "So hey Mo, how's it going in Zurich?" And you'd be like, "Well," and then we like flash to some kind of slide that says like intro, and then you talk through like what that's like, and then I'm
Uh-huh.
like, "Wow, that's interesting. What are your challenges?" And then you're like, "Bam, slide," and then you talk through that, and then you're like, "But I heard you were going through some stuff too," and then I'm like, "Bam, slide." And then we do
Yeah.
that for like 10 minutes and then it's over.
Yes.
Is that what
That's
you
fine with me.
is that how you were seeing
Well,
it?
I was wondering if it's supposed to follow that same format. Or like, what are the 3 learnings, the 3 challenges, whatever? Are we supposed to follow that format?
There's no grading system on the other side, so we can do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I think we just need an outline, whatever the case. I don't think it's so important, like
Yeah.
necessarily what we do. I'm open to that, but I think we need a framework clearly because we just spent like double the allotted meeting time, and we're condensing the actual plan into the last 4 minutes.
3 minutes
So
now.
yeah,
Um,
3 minutes. So I
so
think we just need like a framework, and then we'll just do it.
okay. So is it fair to say that we should both compose a slide version of this thing with like
Sure.
with the content so we can figure out how to really present that content?
Yeah, maybe we can each do a slide with like just one slide with the outline addressing the questions or the framework that they gave us for the first video. So like what was it, like three learnings, three challenges, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So one slide that covers that, and maybe we just put that on the screen for the first like minute of our video, 30 seconds mine, 30 seconds yours, and then you and I decide to maybe pick out one or two of the things and talk more about it would be an option.
Okay. Um, I prefer a little more production in the sense that not just
Yeah, I
one
was
wall
just
of text
thinking that.
slide, but like mini slides that pop up throughout, almost like subtitles.
Yeah, uh-huh.
Um, like an Act One, Act Two kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Like now we're gonna talk about challenges. So I got down that we'll
Sure.
put together
Yeah.
outline
Cool.
slides with questions
Gotcha.
answered. Um, and then once we send those to each other, we'll look at them and then we'll pick a new time, um, a new meeting time
Okay. That works.
to record and get this thing done. Record and execute. Cool. Anything else in the last 30 seconds?
No, I gotta run.
All right, man. Well, good
But
talking to
thanks,
you as
sir.
always.
Yeah, good talking to you too, man.
See you, man.
Later. Bye.